Undocumented. Why? Because it seemed inhuman. That's why. They changed the vernacular, and you know it. But that's not the point. The point is, how are you going to do it? What are you going to do? What are you? You're a tough guy now, huh? I thought you were just supposed to be the simpering, but, open to conversation Trump defender. Of course, I remember you when you said he was like the worst thing in the world. But everything's convenience these days, right? It's getting you paid.
Lucas Stowe here. This one is short, this one is sharp, and this one is necessary. Because what you are about to watch is Chris Cuomo going directly at Scott Jennings over something that sounds like a vocabulary debate, but is actually about something much bigger than that. It is about who gets to decide what is acceptable to say about human beings on national television and who profits from pushing that line in the wrong direction. Scott Jennings is a CNN contributor, a Republican strategist, and he went on air and essentially dared anyone to stop him from calling people illegals. Chest out, chin up. How are you going to enforce that big tough guy energy from a man sitting comfortably behind a television desk, getting a paycheck to say things that make vulnerable people feel like they are less than human? Cuomo is not having it. And what he says cuts through the noise in a way that is worth breaking down properly. If you have not subscribed yet, right now is the time, because this channel does not do performative outrage for clicks. We do the work. Hit that subscribe button and let us get into it.
You see this clip of Scott Jennings saying, how are you going to enforce it? How are you going to enforce me not saying the word illegals anymore? How are you going to do that?
Say illegals anymore, because ICE is directly targeting legal citizens of this country. And how
are you going to enforce your edict on me, just out of curiosity?
Listen, I understand.
But just listen to his point about illegal.
No, what are you, bully now? What are you, tough guy? Because you're talking to this kid who happens to be right, calling people illegals. They're called illegal aliens in the law. And you know what? A long time ago, Republicans and Democrats switched to undocumented. Why? Because it seemed inhuman. That's why. They changed the vernacular, and you know it. But that's not the point. The point is, how are you going to do it? What are you going to do? What are you? You're a tough guy now, huh? I thought you were just supposed to be the simpering, but, open to conversation Trump defender. Of course, I remember you when you said he was like the worst thing in the world. But everything's convenience these days, right? It's getting you paid. But be careful. If you want to be a tough guy, there are plenty of tough guys out there. You want to see how somebody can make you stop saying illegal? And then what are you going to do, sue? Tough guy. How are you going to enforce that? So if somebody beats your ass because you're being rude and disrespectful and causing division in this country, that's causing distress and pain all over the streets and making people want to hurt one another. If you really want to be a part of that, as the expression goes, FAFO, don't be a tough guy. Make tough points. But remember to be decent. You're not a tough guy, okay? You're a guy with slick to the side hair, a slick tongue, and everybody knows what you're doing. Don't be a tough guy, not you.
Let us be precise about what Scott Jennings actually did, because it is important to name it correctly. He did not make a legal argument. He made a dominance display. There is a difference. When you stand up on national television and say, how are you going to enforce your edict on me? You are not defending a legal definition. You are performing toughness for an audience that has been trained to mistake cruelty for strength. That is the whole game. And Jennings knows exactly what he is doing, because he is smart enough to know better and getting paid enough not to care. Cuomo is right about the history. This is not disputed. Both Republicans and Democrats moved away from the word illegal toward undocumented. Not because of some liberal conspiracy, not because of political correctness run amok, but because serious people on both sides of the aisle recognize that calling a human being illegal is dehumanizing. A person cannot be illegal. An action can be illegal. A status can be illegal. But a person, a living, breathing human being with a family and a history and a future, cannot be reduced to a legal infraction and called illegal without doing something to how the rest of society thinks about and treats that person. That is not a semantic debate. That is psychology. That is history. That is what language does to people over time. And both parties understood that, until it became more profitable for one of them not to. Now let us talk about the convenience argument, because Cuomo goes there, and he is absolutely right to go there. Scott Jennings was not always this guy. There was a version of Scott Jennings who had real criticisms of Donald Trump, who said things publicly that the current version of Scott Jennings would never say on air. But that version of Scott Jennings was not getting the bookings, was not getting the platform, was not getting the paycheck that comes with being the reliable Republican defender who will go on CNN and say the thing that makes the other panelists gasp. Everything is convenience these days. Cuomo said it and it landed because it is true. The tough guy persona is a product. It is packaged and sold to an audience, and it is doing real damage to real people, while the man performing it goes home to a comfortable life completely insulated from the consequences of the rhetoric he is paid to produce. And that is the part that needs to sit with you. When public figures use dehumanizing language about immigrant communities on national television, it does not stay on television. It filters down. It gives permission. It tells people in communities across this country that it is acceptable to look at their neighbors, their co-workers, the people picking their food and building their homes and raising their children alongside theirs, and see them as something less, as something illegal, as something that does not deserve the basic dignity of being called a human being first. That language has consequences on streets, in schools, in workplaces, in the way people treat each other when they think nobody important is watching. Cuomo's FAFO line got a lot of attention, and I want to address it directly because it is the moment in this clip that some people will use to dismiss everything else he said. Was it the most polished delivery? No, but what Cuomo is expressing underneath that frustration is something real. There is a cost to this. There is a point at which you cannot keep pouring gasoline on a fire and then act surprised when something burns. Jennings is not lighting the match himself. He is just selling the gasoline on television and calling it free speech. Here is what this is really about at the core of it. The Republican strategy on immigration has never actually been about enforcing the law. If it were about the law, they would go after the employers who knowingly hire undocumented workers and drive the demand that pulls people across the border in the first place. They never do that. Because those employers are donors. What it has always been about is having an enemy, a group of people you can point to and say these people are the reason your life is hard. These people are taking what is yours. These people are illegal. And if you can get that word into enough mouths on enough television screens, you do not need to solve the problem. You just need the problem to keep being useful. Scott Jennings is a smart man doing a cynical thing for money and platform, and Cuomo is right to call it out. You are not a tough guy. You are a guy with a slick tongue and a comfortable seat and zero personal exposure to the damage your words cause. That is not toughness. That is cowardice with good lighting. Make tough points. Absolutely. This channel makes tough points every single video. But there is a line between tough and cruel, and that line is called decency. And decency is not weakness. Decency is what separates people who are actually trying to fix something from people who are just trying to profit from how broken it already is. If this channel is giving you the analysis and the accountability you are not getting elsewhere, subscribe right now, share this video, and bring somebody else into the conversation. The more people who can see through the performance, the harder it becomes to keep selling it. I am Lucas Stowe, and I will see you in the next one.